Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special program, Capital Beat. 14 opposition members from different parties were suspended today from the Lok Sabha. And Derek O'Brien from Rajya Sabha was also suspended. Now, what were these opposition parties demanding? They demanded that Amit Shah, the Home Minister, should make a statement on the security breach which happened in Parliament yesterday. But rather than giving a statement, the MPs have been suspended left, right, and center to the extent that Kapil Sibal made a statement saying that why doesn't the government suspend all the MPs rather than just a few MPs? Now, why is the government suspending the MPs? That's question number one. Question number two, then why is the government not taking the opposition members into confidence on such a sensitive issue? Joining me now is a special panel with us. We have senior journalist and political commentator Anand Sahai with us. Thank you, sir, so much for joining. We have Vivek Deshpande with us, senior journalist. Thank you so much. Pushparaj Deshpande, the director of the Samrit Bharat Foundation. Thank you so much, Pushparaj. And Puneet Nicholas Yadav, senior editor with the Federal. Thank you so much, Puneet. And let me begin with Puneet, that I really want to know from you as to what happened inside Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and what were the kind of statements made by the speaker or by ministers like Prahlad Joshi, and what were the opposition members really saying? Yeah.
Well, in a nutshell, basically what happened was you had the opposition raising demands for a discussion on the floor of the House about the security breach. Secondly, for the Home Minister to come and make a statement, and at least for the Prime Minister to be present in the House when they want to discuss something as important as this. And a statement from the BJP or the BJP president, on what action are they taking against their MP, Mr. Pratap Simha, on whose recommendation the visitors gallery passes were given to the people who've been arrested for the breach of security of Parliament. So now these were basically the demands that the opposition made both in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. And as we've seen in different circumstances across Parliament sessions of the past, none of their demands were accepted by the chair or by the government, the presiding officers of either house. Several MPs had also in the morning submitted notices for suspension of business for this discussion. All of those notices were also rejected by both the presiding officers. And the reason given was that a statement had already been, like in the case of the Rajya Sabha chair said that a statement had already been made. He was also explaining that I had said yesterday that investigations are underway. They will follow their due course. So that was basically the statement that he was referring to. And so these suspension of business notices do not hold any merit. Similarly, in the Lok Sabha, the speaker informed the House that an inquiry, as per the protocol that has been set up for such inquiries by Joint Security Command of Parliament, has been ordered and it's underway. And so no other details were given. And he said that because of this, things will progress as they do in the so-called due course. And none of this naturally convinced anybody in the opposition, and so their protests continued. And then we saw again the whole familiar exercise of suspensions and warnings and from the chair. And eventually you had Mr. Derek O'Brien from the Rajya Sabha, Trinamool Congress MP, being suspended. And in the Lok Sabha, in two batches of 9 and 5, MPs from the opposition being suspended. Interestingly, one of those MPs who has been suspended was not even present in the House. Okay, the DMK's Mr. Prataban, who who is among those 14 to be suspended, was not even present in the House today. So how they have suspended him is a mystery. And uh, and then, of course, in the Rajya Sabha, Derek, of course, refused to leave the House. So there were repeated adjournments, half an hour, adjournments. And the chair kept cautioning him that he needs to withdraw from the House. And eventually, then a motion was moved, a resolution was moved by the leader of the House, Mr. Piyush Goyal, uh, essentially saying that Derek O'Brien has committed a very gross breach of privilege because he was suspended for the remainder of the session, but he has refused to heed the directions of the chair and leave the House, which is, of course, part of the rules. When you are suspended, you are supposed to leave immediately. And so the Privileges Committee of the Rajya Sabha needs to investigate and recommend further action. So normally 3 months is the time frame for such investigations. I'm quite sure that the BJP, unlike in other matters where they need to be prompt, in this particular matter will be very prompt, and you can expect them to come up with some recommendation, possibly with some severe kind of punishment recommended for Mr. Derek O'Brien for breach of privilege. So that's essentially what happened in both houses. And then, of course, outside Parliament, you had all the India Party leaders coming and speaking to the press and making statements about how the government is not responding to an issue which is essentially, it's not just a minor security breach, but it's as much an issue of national security. Because if the Parliament can be the security of Parliament can be breached so easily, then
Exactly.
practically there's nothing else that's safe enough.
Right.
And despite something as serious as this, the government is not prepared, and the presiding officers of the two houses also don't seem to have any great interest. One point that I did miss out was there was a very interesting statement made by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Prahlad Joshi, in the Lok Sabha. Previously, Mr. Rajnath Singh had also made a statement saying essentially the same thing, that the investigations are on, and we should wait for the report and not disrupt house proceedings. But the Parliamentary Affairs Minister's statement was particularly interesting because it shows one, that the government, despite something as serious as this, wants to simply brazen it out. Second, I do not see the government putting any great, treating this incident as any major breach in itself, because the Parliamentary Affairs statement was essentially that these instances have happened earlier also. And then he quoted one instance from 1974 about a gentleman coming into the visitors gallery of course, the old Parliament, and raising slogans. Another incident he quoted of a person coming into the visitors gallery and throwing a piece of paper into the well of the House. So that is the parallel that he made. And while, of course, he did qualify it by saying that it does not mean that this is not serious, but ye to hota rehta hai. Ye pehle bhi hua hai, And so the political parties from the opposition should not be raising this, should not be disrupting the House over this, and they're basically politicking. So I think that statement in itself kind of demonstrates what seriousness the government attaches to something like this.
Exactly. Now, let me come to Mr. Sahai. There are questions over the fact that, should Amit Shah or Narendra Modi have made a statement while the investigations are on? We still know for sure that, the culprits are still to be nabbed, the accused, I mean, and 4 people have already been detained and they are being questioned. Some 2 more people's names have come out. Vicky and Lalit
Let
Jha
me let,
say?
let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. I know what you're saying. There's no point stretching out these details.
Right.
It's all over the place. It's all over the place.
Hmm.
It is a shocking thing which has happened. And it's a matter of the greatest sadness and anguish that the leaders of government should be responding with this level of disdain for parliament.
Hmm.
It is not a matter of the parliamentary affairs minister saying something, the leader of the house in the Rajya Sabha, Piyush Goyal saying something. What they are saying will hold zero water. A matter of the gravest nature has taken place. It is the government's responsibility at the highest possible levels to make a statement to reassure the country. You know, this parliament building is 1 year
Allow me to
old.
interrupt you for a few seconds, Anand sir. What I was trying to ask you was that should the government have made a statement today itself, or maybe they're thinking
Today,
of making a statement tomorrow or day after?
today, right now,
Okay, all right, all
today,
right.
right now, day after tomorrow, 6 months later, makes no sense. The country
Okay.
has to be reassured now. The investigations can carry on for as long as the government may wish to stretch it out. Simply doesn't matter. The smallest robbery in India, the smallest theft takes weeks to discover. So, should the country remain in suspense? This is an idiotic proposition. Let me say that. In case the government side is trying to push that kind of narrative, and I know what's being said on social media groups by the, uh, by the propagators of fake news. I'm aware of what they've been saying. You know, pushing blame onto other people, other parties, without the investigation having taken 2 steps forward. They are already trying to hold opposition parties guilty. In sharp contrast, I was present those days, reporting Parliament actively in that era when the attack on Parliament took place, 2001, when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister. It's interesting that these major attacks on Parliament, this amounts to an attack, have occurred, both occurred under the Prime Ministership, the leaderships of government of the Bharatiya Janata Party, which claims to be full of security, consciousness, and all the rest of it. But Vajpayee was a very different man from Narendra Modi. He made a statement immediately. And in that statement, I was present there. He made a brilliant speech. It wasn't a mere formal statement prepared by a joint secretary in the Home Ministry. He made a beautiful speech in Parliament. And in that speech, he said, because Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, who was not present when the armed men entered the Parliament House, she immediately went on the phone to call the PM. And Mr. Vajpayee had said then on that occasion, and I remember those words, that a country whose opposition leader is so concerned about the fate of the Prime Minister, no harm can come to such a country. You know, I may not have got the exact quotation, but those were the words.
Yeah.
Right.
And in sharp contrast, what do we see today? Suspension of MPs in both houses for performing their duty, of saying, please, for heaven's sake, give us a statement. And I'm amazed by, all these chaps, these hardcore politicos, who adorn the highest office of running the affairs of government, and as well as being presiding officers and so on. But the Rajya Sabha chairman, he's a lawyer. He's not a mere politician. He's been governor. He's held offices where sobriety ought to be second nature. A man like that said, I've got 26 or 27 notices to suspend, the business, and to take up a discussion on this matter. And I find no merit. Please give us reasons why you find no merit.
Absolutely.
Please give us reasons. Don't be so blasé. Do not think that because you won a few elections a few days ago, And let me draw a correlation. After the election results, what's the first thing they do? They bring to parliament, degrading the whole election commission by making the pick of the election commission and chief election commissioner purely, it becomes a toy in the hand of the government. The election commission members and its head, there'll be only a government minister, the prime minister, and naam ke vaste, a leader of the opposition, right? Why this is worse than the selection process for the CBI chief, for the CVC chief, where the Supreme Court Chief Justice will still remain there. So this is a mockery of the election process. Now, a day or two later, you've got into the mockery of Parliament. And luckily, in 2001, those terrorists did not get inside the chamber. But here, these blighters have jumped right in. Perhaps it looks like they were disgruntled young people, who was the slogans they raised indicated that subsequently, ये क्या तानाशाही नहीं चलेगी वगैरह, ठीक है, ये सब बड़े कॉमन स्लोगन्स हैं, चलते रहते हैं डेमोक्रेसी में. But they have managed to go through several layers of security, got into the gallery, and then jumped down. There's no point telling me as a citizen that, look here, in 1974, this happened. Is this man idiotic? Is this minister idiotic? Is he comparing pears with oranges? It is a matter for all of us to feel sorry about, to see the degradation of Indian democracy, to see the degradation of the way the government operates, comparing it only with the previous incident where Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister. With such grace, he had conducted the whole thing. And after this, एक कहावत है हिंदी में, कहाँ राजा भोज कहाँ गंगू तेली. मैं इन दो सरकारों की तुलना कर रहा हूं. I'm sorry, I must end here, but I'm very agitated.
No, sir. Very strong words coming from you, but very natural for you to think that way, because you've seen the stark difference between how the things were during the Vajpayee regime and what we are seeing now. Now, let me come to Vivek Deshpande. That Vivek, why do you think on a sensitive issue like this, though it's not new for a government like Narendra Modi government, the way they are performing, it's not for the first time that they are suspending MPs, they are trying to stifle the voices. But in this particular case, where everyone is talking about the national security, that if somebody is attacking parliament or there is a security breach in parliament, why is the government taking it so lightly? Are they giving the indications that for them, it's not a breach as what the entire world is talking about?
Nilu, I am really not surprised that they are not taking it seriously. Even if they are taking it seriously in their own way, then they will certainly not make it evident. Because the whole idea is that, we don't care about what you are protesting. We simply don't care. We might care about what has happened, but we will do something about it at our own level, but we are not answerable to you. The whole premise of Mr. Modi's governance has been opposition mukt democracy. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms, but that is what Mr. Modi has been saying all along. He has been saying Congress mukt Bharat, but then he has been trying to decimate even the regional parties in different states. That has been their policy. Mr. Sahai has very rightly pointed out the difference between the political culture that existed at the time of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee when he was the Prime Minister, and we are seeing two completely different BJPs in these two cases here. And this culture has, I'm not really surprised or shocked that the Home Minister has not given any statement, or the Prime Minister has not made any statement, despite this this incident being so serious, of such a serious nature, because they have institutionalized the system of not being answerable to opposition or to the country. What happened when China intruded into India? We did not hear the Prime Minister say anything about it. And when he finally said something, what he said was such an insult to our soldiers who were martyred there. He said nobody has entered India. So So that is the kind of response we have seen. When Hathras happened, immediately after that, there was this speech by the RSS chief at the annual Vijayadashmi function, which I was covering. So I was expecting something from the RSS chief about this incident, that he would say something. But he did not say anything, but tangentially he said something which I had no other option than to connect to Hathras. He said, in such a big country, such things do happen. That does not mean that there is any big problem here. So he was referring indirectly to Hathras, I guess. The thing is, these people do not want to comment on anything that points out at something which they lack. So, and I see this not being answerable to parliamentarians as a breach of privilege of the opposition. Now, if there is any breach of privilege, then it is here. And it is a privilege of the opposition parties, and even those in the ruling party who want to know something about this. It is their privilege to know what exactly the government has to say about this. If the government is not ready to answer their privilege, then the breach of privilege is by the government, not by anyone else. But then what do you do? And this is the kind of culture they have brought in. And this culture is going to stay as long as they are going to stay in power. So I'm really not surprised. I'm not shocked. This is the way they believe in brazening it out. Now, what will happen hereafter? What will they do? And will they ever come out with any statement at any point of time in future? Nobody knows. But what they are trying to say by not giving a statement is, we are not answerable to anyone. Let anything happen, we will not answer anyone questioning whatever has happened. And this is the most serious part of it. And I don't know, if the parliament is not successful in dealing with these people, then what do you do? I mean, do we come out on the streets like these boys, these four people who went into the parliament, did something? Now, is that something which the people of this country have to do on the streets now, to make these people answer? But then I don't know. I mean, which way the things will turn out in the next 4 or 5 months till the elections happen. We might see a very big bang in well before the elections happen, as Mr. Satyapal Malik has suggested. You never know what will happen.
Right.
And then this government will get away with some kind of a prize after that. That's the whole tragedy. But what do you do about it? I mean, currently we are at the crossroads where we really do not know which way we have to tackle this situation, Neelu.
Pushpraj, if I may come to you, it's really a sad state of affairs that you have a government which is trying to brazen out such a grave issue. Today, Mallikarjun Kharge also in Rajya Sabha pointed out that it's a matter of urgent importance. And he also cited the rule that the discussion should happen. He should come up with a statement under Rule 267. He mentioned that things should be discussed under that. But even then, rather than discussions, suspensions have taken place. Now, my question is that what are the options before the opposition? As what Vivek just pointed out, that now should the opposition also, resort to measures like what was seen being done by these youths who intruded into the parliament? What are the options now left? You don't have a supportive media which is siding by the opposition. You don't have any system which really supports the opposition. Now, how does one register the protest? What are the options before the opposition right now?
Hi, Neelu J. See, the opposition only has one option to my mind. It has to move beyond the procedural and the symbolic and focus on the substantive. Total civil disobedience is the only way to go. And I think that now increasingly, this is the bugle call for 2024, the May 2024. Whether they like it or not, the government would like the opposition to wait till they announce the next budget. But the way they've conducted themselves now, I think the 2024 election campaign will kickstart sometime this month. This is what is going to happen at the most obvious level. But I want to address the four glaring issues that are at stake here. On the most obvious level, as some people have been talking about, this is an issue about the BJP government avoiding accountability. But on the other hand, this is also about the BJP government's double standards on parliamentary ethics. And finally, this is, again, I said this to you yesterday also, this is about the national security failures that the government is trying to obfuscate. Firstly, since 2014, the BJP government has gone to great lengths to avoid or evade debate on every substantive issue. Now, this is coming from a government whose prime minister promised India that na khaunga, na khane dunga. Yet the BJP government has tried and leveraged every trick in the book and some out of the book to avoid accountability and transparency in government. It's almost as if they have something to hide. Now, let me explain why I'm saying this. An unprecedented 76% of the bills passed in the last 9 years were passed without any legislative scrutiny, either in the House or in the standing committees. Plus, the BJP government has circumscribed the RTI Act. They have also forced the CAG not to file reports highlighting corruption. Consequently, CAG reports have dropped by 75%. And finally, in the last 9 years, over 176 MPs have been suspended at various points in times. This includes the 15 MPs who have been suspended today and Rahul Gandhi, who again raised a question. Now, the suspension of these MPs needs to be contextualized in this light because it signifies not the suspension alone of, it's not an isolated incident. It signifies the government's larger attempts to evade scrutiny. Secondly, the BJP government's double standards are very glaring in this issue. Now, it was a BJP MP who helped the miscreants get the pass into parliament yesterday. No action has been initiated against him, and I don't expect that any action will be taken against him, either for incompetence, in case he doesn't know who these people were, or for collusion, which is very obvious given the fact that they recede parliament multiple times on the same person's pass. Now, yesterday a smoke canister was smuggled in. Tomorrow it could be much worse. Is it really bad to discuss and redress the glaring lacuna at play here? And this has been the BJP's pattern for the last 9 years. When a BJP MP called a Muslim MP a derogatory term inside parliament, he wasn't suspended. When another BJP minister, admittedly outside parliament, called for the public execution of minorities, he wasn't suspended. Then again in 2022, last June monsoon session, a group of MPs cornered Mrs. Sonia Gandhi on the floor of the House and heckled her and tried to sort of physically manhandle her. No action was taken against any of them. Instead, they have suspended MPs today wanting a discussion on the grave security breach. Now, for the BJP government, and I'm sorry to say this, even the pliant chairs of both the houses, there is one law for the government and another for the legislature. I mean, today, out of the 15 MPs suspended, it's not 14, in one house and one in the Rajya Sabha.
Yeah,
one MP from the DMK, SR Parthiban, he wasn't even in the house. Now, see, if you see, I mean, one of our previous panelists has been talking about the fact that there has always been a political compact between the executive and the legislature, and that has to be renewed every session, for which the larger onus is on the government and primarily on the prime minister. Now think about this. I'm a student of history. I'm constantly surprised at how it repeats itself constantly. On the 27th of February 1933, just look at the irony here. After the Reichstag fire in Germany, the Nazi government suspended all the MPs from the Communist Party and the Social Democratic Party. Why? Because the next day they wanted to have a discussion on the floor of the House, asking that the Nationalist Socialist government be held accountable. Now, isn't it ironic that the exact same circumstances are being repeated today? It's almost as if the BJP government is borrowing from a toolkit on how to undermine democracy. And thirdly, which is the most substantive issue, which I again want to come back to, this is a grave security failure. On one hand, 3 agencies failed yesterday: the Delhi police, the parliamentary security, and the intelligence apparatus. All 3 report to the Home Minister. Then on the other hand, there has been no joint security for the joint secretary for the security in the parliament for the last 3 years. And finally, the House panel on security has been defunct for the past 5 years. The collective responsibility for all of this rests at least with the Home Minister of India and the Parliamentary Affairs Ministers. Now, taking command responsibility, both of them should be resigning. Both of them should be answering the government, answering the legislator on the floor of the House. But who have been made scapegoats? Some minor officials. Basically, for the BJP government, what they are saying is, if there is any mistake in the country, it's not ours, it's yours. But if there is any credit to be taken, even if it's something as small as Nali, I am the first person in the line. I mean, what kind of hypocrisy is this? Are they running a parliament? I mean, are they running a government, or are they running a panwadi ki dukaan?
No, I mean, I really wanted a BJP spokesperson on this panel today. And let me share very honestly, I did try a number of people, but none of them were willing. But I had an interesting conversation with a BJP leader yesterday, and I'm not going to name him, but he did accept the fact that there were mistakes from the government side. And I'll come to you, Mr. Sahai, after sharing what I have to. The gentleman, he said that, this was the last full-fledged session of the parliament before elections. And government was very keen that, they have larger number of visitors who come and see their projects of pride, like the new parliament building and, of course, things like war memorial. So that is why the number of visitors were many. Of course, the security was short-staffed, and because they were attending to others, like you have these film stars coming in, sometimes you have these anchors walking into the parliament. So he did admit to the fact, but he said that I'm saying all this off the record just to give you an idea of where the government has gone wrong. So this was a very, very clear statement of the fact that they do recognize that they are on the wrong, but they are just trying to hide their failures. Now, what would you say, Mr. Sahai, to this?
I think, it's laughable to say that a lot of people are coming, the number of visitors is, is large, and there was a shortfall of security staff. But as was pointed out just on this panel just a little while ago, that for a number of years, the security system, the committee which looks at all this has not even met. So don't blame it on large numbers of visitors. I covered Parliament for more than 30 years. I had a Central Hall pass for Parliament for about 20 years. I can't enter Parliament today. They want any observers like journalists who can sit and watch and who can make sense of things more logically while being present there, and they get a chance to speak to us. They've all been banned. Everybody is being banned. And now even sitting MPs are being banned. As we get closer to elections, it is just a total, power going to their heads. It is that kind of situation. And this man who spoke to you about number of visitors increasing, etc., he is taking, these things they're all carefully planted. Don't for a minute think that's a spontaneous observation being made, by a sitting by the ruling parties, a member of parliament from the ruling party. These are all fairly well rehearsed, lines being given. And, in the garb of don't quote me, I'm giving you an off the record thing. Do they take the country as a joke? Vajpayee's government could have said, kya kare, lachari thi, he had a dramatic way of speaking. Ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya, humne puri apna dam laga diya. He did not do any of that, to his credit. The buck has to stop somewhere, and that buck cannot stop at visitors going to the visitors gallery. What's the Parliament House for? What is the democracy for?
Absolutely.
Not only for MPs to sit there, but people to come. It's a large precinct. Why make mockery by saying these completely illogical things which make no sense? They are laughable. And this particular bunch of people who are today in office, they learn how to begin giving off rumors, throwing people off the scent. This kind of thing they've been trained in these processes from the time they're young people. And then over a period of 20 or 30 years, they perfect the art, of false propaganda, of spreading, giving, a semblance of truth to total untruth. So we should be careful. We should guard ourselves against this. Is malicious. This is malicious to democracy. This is disdainful of ordinary people who vote you in. I don't know who these characters are who jumped into the Parliament House and had those canisters, whatever they were doing. But obviously, they could well have had poison gas there. I don't know. Imagine the circumstances. And then would this blighter still be saying in 74, this happened, and in 70, this year, this happened or that happened? These things go on happening. If these people are talking like this, I feel sorry that a man as experienced as the Defense Minister of India, who's been Chief Minister of a state, who's been president of his own party, and who's regarded as a sober man by anyone who has tracked his political journey. He's saying it's unfortunate, which means you're treating it like a trifle. What's unfortunate? When a glass of water falls on my trousers, I say, oh, it's unfortunate. You know? Somebody slips and falls, it's unfortunate. This is unfortunate. I mean, Rajnath ji, is that the best he could do in the circumstances? Another chap says, don't politicize it. Whole parliament is for politics. Politics is for the people. You know, every second we breathe in parliament, and you and I, if you don't follow politics, politics will follow you and drive you to your grave.
Absolutely.
So you've got to, so there's nothing wrong in being political by asking a question, legitimate question of the legitimately elected government. That does not become politics, meaning in a negative way. That's the question of accountability. The question hour takes place every day. Isn't that politics? People are asking questions to ask you, how are you running the government? By that logic, every day, the whole thing should be finished, ended. No more question hour. Why? Because that's politics. So I think, we should tell these chaps where they get off, tell them to do their homework, tell them that they ought to feel obliged to us citizens for having elected them and giving them this chance to run this country. This country has great traditions. Please do not dishonor each and every one of them, every single one of them. So don't do that. And I'm so agitated. I would think that now it's only a few months to go for the life of this parliament to end. I don't know if there was anyone to ask me. I would say, for heaven's sake, राम के नाम पर आज तो इस्तीफा दे दो पार्लियामेंट से. इस पार्लियामेंट का कोई मतलब नहीं बच गया है. जिस तरह से तौहीन की जा रही है पार्लियामेंट की, the way it's been completely, it's been treated like a rag. To put it no stronger than that. So yes, I mean, it has proved to be, they just want to come to power any which way, and then all that they want is to grasp the treasury, spend the money any old way they like. Anyone raising questions, they say, get the hell out. No questions are not allowed. RTI is not allowed. Any forum available to the citizen is not allowed. Only what we say is allowed. And if you ask any question, then you're politicizing the issue. Right. No, this is the attitude of I do not know. Or what do we do? We want a temple of democracy. We want a new building, new structure, thousands of crores. So many $1 billion were spent on doing that. Why? To do this? We don't want MPs anyway. So I think MP should realize this. I mean, what happens in the election, God knows, depends on what these chaps do. But to send a proper signal, they should say, listen, we are going. We are going. We are going. Thank you.
You made very strong remarks, Mr. Sahai, but one thing which I would want to ask Vivek now is that Anand Sahai just mentioned the fact that, we need to tell the government that, look, this is where you're going wrong and you need to be told the truth. But look at what the media is doing. The bulk of the media today has their headlines as who's the key conspirator. Nobody is asking questions of the government as to who is accountable. Will Amit Shah resign? Pushpraj is nodding his head. Shall I come to you first? Yes, Pushparaj?
No, just to before Vivekji says it, the headlines in most of the media newspapers, print media, at least in the regional newspapers, is about Prime Minister Modi moving a table to accommodate the CM. It was not about the Parliament attack.
Yeah.
This
so-
is the level of inanity that we have to deal with.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, you had the same media which was raising questions about accountability. It was raising questions about security issues as well when this attack happened in Parliament in 2001. How does the media now hold power to account? How do we tell them the truth? Just a few sections of the media, if they are doing it, the message doesn't get across.
Yeah, Nilu, I think the less said, the better about the media. And we have seen how the media has been crawling in front of Mr. Modi and Shah all these years, and how the whole media was subjugated by them. They did not decimate the media. They subjugated it. They were very smart, uh, and they are allowing people like us to say something on YouTube channels here and there, so that they could cite that as freedom of press in India. So they are working, mainstream media they have absolutely subjugated, and people like us on the fringes somewhere on the YouTube, they are being allowed to say things so that it could be cited. So that is the two-pronged strategy that this government has been adopting as far as media is concerned. And then intermittently, someone like you or me in the alternative media would be picked up for something which they think is anti-national or something, and then that will also serve as some kind of a deterrence to people like us. So that is the whole strategy of this government. But the whole thing that they are missing out in this is that when they are being asked questions by parliamentarians or by media, they are not answering the questions to the parliamentarians or to the media. They are answering these questions. I mean, these questions are being asked on behalf of the people of India. I mean, how do I get the answer from the government? I do not get the answer from the government because Mr. Amit Shah is not going to call me up personally and tell me what happened. So it is through some media press conference, or it is through statements in parliament that I get to know what Mr. Amit Shah or what Mr. Modi has to say about it is. But if they are not saying that, even at that level, then that means that they are saying indirectly that we are not answerable to the even people. Once we get elected, we are not answerable to the people of this country as well. And that is where I take the affront. And that is where the people of this country have to realize that they are being mocked at, not the parliamentarians, not the media. They are being mocked at, and the people have to decide once and for all before 2024 whether they are going to allow these people to continue in power. If the people still decide in their favor, then they must be prepared for whatever this government does and not complain about it. Nilu.
I'll come for the concluding remarks now to Pushparaj and Puneet. Very brief remarks. Pushparaj, what would you really say? I mean, what are we going to expect? Is the government likely to make any statement, or we will just not see them giving any statement? Maybe some sort of a press conference might happen from the police officials who are investigating the case. What happens from here on? What are you expecting for the remainder of the winter session?
A brief remark. Today we are raining Deshpandes. And if that's the case, I think this government cannot get away so easily.
Okay.
We have powerful voices there, in addition to Neelu Vyas.
They are raining, but they might rain us in.
Yeah, that's true. Quite probable. Yes. Pushparaj, tell me.
No, it's very kind of Sahay sir to say that it means a lot coming from someone of his stature. But see, if pigs could fly, the government would be answerable tomorrow. But they can't. And I don't think that this government is going to do anything that is in the national interest. They're going to do three things. They're going to obfuscate this issue, brush it under the carpet, and they're not going to focus on the grave security failure that has happened under their watch. Think about the fact that the two times when Parliament has been under attack, both times there has been a BJP government. They keep tom-tomming their record on national security 24/7. This is a government that has consistently under-delivered on national security, whether it's Pathankot, whether it's Uri, whether it's Pulwama, whether it is Doklam, whether it is China, whether it is Ladakh and Arunachal, and now again in Parliament. This government, of course, I'm not even going into the foreign international failures, which have also happened under the security, this thing, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in US, whether it's in Germany or in Qatar and so on and so forth. Let's not even get there. But this government's track record on security is completely blown apart. And if there is any conscientious security expert or media expert, this is a story waiting to be told. Their track record, the BJP's track record on national security needs to be told. They will, of course, try their level best to obfuscate it. That's one thing. The second thing is they will, that version of politics is big boss version of politics. It's like a reality TV show. They are now going to deflect the issue. They're going to get even more aggressive on MPs, on the opposition MPs. They're going to, some new distraction is going to come up in the next few days. I will bet my life on this. And they're going to do this so that the people of India who are clearly going, the silent majority is looking at this issue. Obviously, it's a serious issue. They will try to do something which is going to deflect the issue from the from the larger issue. And the third thing is that the opposition parties know that there is a smoking gun. They're not going to let this loose. And there is a method to the madness. The reason why Derek O'Brien and others are stomping into the floor of the House is because they know that this is an exposed nerve. Now, the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, the parliament and the media are no longer avenues where you can have a constructive debate in the national interest. In which case, as I said in the beginning of the show, the only recourse the opposition has is to take to the streets. So now, instead of Delhi Chalo, they're all going to, the exact opposite. Delhi Chodo. They're all going to leave Delhi. And I'm telling you, the parliament, the May 24 campaign is going to kickstart before the end of this month. And the BJP government has acted as a catalyst for this.
All right. But I'm really getting tempted to ask you the last question, Puneet, that what Pushpa just said, that, a government will try and deflect the attention. They'll bring in some sort of a distraction. Now, what could that distraction be? Maybe an announcement of an early election or something like that, because they're just riding high on the recent victories they've just had in the 3 states. What could it be? And what is the possibility you're seeing?
No, well, I mean, early elections and all, I don't subscribe to that view. And as far as what it could be that the government would do, there again, I mean, you've just had election results for 3 states. The 3 people who've been made chief ministers in these states also did not know that they have a fighting chance to be chief ministers. So what, when you say, what is it that this government is going to do next? I'm assuming, at the risk of putting words in your mouth, that you actually mean what is it that Mr. Modi is going to do next? Because I mean, he of course is the government. So I wouldn't want to second guess, but I do shudder to think what it is going to be. Because whenever you've seen this government in a corner, what has followed has never been too good. I mean, I don't need to allude to what I'm saying, but I think that's pretty obvious. And so I don't want to, second guess what it is that they'll do. But at the same time, might I add, I do not share the optimism of Pushpraj either with regard to the opposition taking to the streets, starting the campaign from this month onwards, etc. Of course, you have a meeting of the India Alliance on the 19th, their 4th conclave, so to speak. But going by how they've been operating, and of course, other issues within that formation, I do not hold out a lot of hope of them getting into the kind of street fighting politics that one would expect them to at least now follow. And having said that, I do not at the same time hold out much hope. I'm sorry for being so pessimistic, But both of us traveled in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh together. We can, go into all kinds of an analysis of what happened, why it happened, etc. But when you see something on the ground, a kind of say in Madhya Pradesh, a yearning for change when you're talking to the people, and it's so palpable, so obvious that what it is going to be like when the results are counted. And when they are actually counted, even those who have won are extremely surprised. So I do not want to, jump the gun and, go 2 months forward and 3 months forward and say, what is it that's going to happen? Whether the opposition, even if it does, I don't hold out much hope, but even if it does hit the streets from tomorrow, leave Delhi, Delhi chodo, as Pushparaj put it, and, go back to their ground and, start their preparations for 24 in full earnest. I really don't know what is it that is going to turn things around. I mean, it's a sorry state of affairs, and it's a very pessimistic picture of things. But that's my view. I mean, that's how I see it.
No, indeed. It is really unfortunate the way the things are happening. But let's see, as far as the security breach in Parliament is concerned, does Amit Shah or Narendra Modi make a statement? We'll have to wait and watch. Thank you so much, Anand Sahai, Vivek Deshpande, Pushparaj, Puneet. Thank you so much for joining. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion, subscribe to our channel, send us your feedback, and stay tuned to The Federal. Thank you.
Subscribe to The Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.